All right. So, as I like to say with these things, as long as everything is working the way that it should be working, we are now live. So, hello and welcome to everyone who is watching the Written Melanin channel. Wherever this day may have found you, I'm so glad that you are here. And today, you guys, I say we because I'm used to Audra being here, but today I'm here to bring some melanin to your pages. And today is November 19th, you guys, which means this is actually the last Melanin Chat Tuesday of November, which means that this is also the last Melanin Chat of 2024. The next time you see me doing the Melanin Chat, it will be 2025 in the new year, which is kind of crazy. This year has really flown by. This year has gone by so quickly. But here we are. Here we are. I hope you guys are doing well. Shout out to Benjamin, Darian, Angels of Power, who are in the chat. Hello, welcome. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you're thriving this beautiful Tuesday morning. It was kind of foggy here, but y'all get what I mean. Y'all get what I mean. Vina is here. Hello, good morning, love. I know that I'm late, so I'm going to give folks a chance to hop in, but y'all know it's not the Melanin Chat if I am not at least 5 minutes late. So y'all understand what this is. Y'all know what this is. But that being said, Audra's not with me this morning. She has a job. And y'all, I'm so proud of her. Her business that she started this year has really taken off. And I am so incredibly excited and proud of her. And yeah, today it's a good day. It's a good day. There are also other update things that I can share with you guys while everybody's getting in the chat. One, I actually finished writing my novella. So The Lady Widow is officially done. It is going out to the Author Council in Ben later on today. As long as they say it's good, I'm going to be posting that on my Patreon. And I'm going to be trying something new with it, so hopefully it works out well. But if you would like to read it, this would be a really good time to sign up for the Patreon. So slight plug to get into that. Also, Ben put it in the chat. We have all collectively escaped Twitter, and if you haven't escaped Twitter, I highly suggest that you go ahead and do that. But I am now on Blue Sky. I'm on Threads. Y'all, I've been on Threads for a while, but I'm other places on the internet at this point. So yeah. La is here. Hello, welcome, love. That notification came late, so hi, I'm here. Yeah, I know how YouTube be doing, so we haven't talked about anything super crazy important yet. Not anything that you don't know, at least. So, with that being said, you guys, we have a very interesting topic, and I'm curious to see where it goes. So we're gonna go ahead and get into this melanin spotlight for today. And the melanin spotlight for today is, why is my phone doing this? This is my fault. Let me be a professional and mute my phone because I be getting distracted. Anyhow. Melanin spotlight for today is this one. Black AF History, the Unwhitewashed Story of America by Michael Harriot. And let me pull an Audra real quick because I actually have the physical copy of this book. So disclaimer, this is not my book. This is my mother's book. Her birthday was last week, and so this weekend we went to go visit, and I borrowed it from the library mom. So shout out to Ma. But yeah, it's really interesting. Her book club read it. I think a couple of months ago at this point. But considering the point of history that we now live in America, I wanted to pick it up, and honestly, the page of the introduction starts out with him recalling how he felt when Reagan won the presidential election, how many ever years ago, and the feelings that he describes on the very first page of the book. I'm like, oh, this is not new. This feeling of needing to pack up your entire life and move to another country, everybody's feeling this. This has happened before. Okay, cool. That's great. But that being said, especially with everything happening, it might be a good idea to get into the actual history of things. So if you want, there's a link in the description box below, and the description reads: from acclaimed columnist and political commentator Michael Harriot, a searingly smart and bitingly hilarious retelling of American history that corrects the record and showcases the perspectives and experiences of Black Americans. America's backstory is a whitewashed mythology implanted in our collective memory. It is the story of the Pilgrims on the Mayflower building a new nation. It is George Washington's cherry tree and Abraham Lincoln's log cabin. It is the fantastic tale of slaves that spontaneously teleported themselves here with nothing but strong backs and Negro spirituals. It is a sugar coated legend based on an almost true story. It should come as no surprise that the dominant narrative of American history is blighted with errors and oversights. After all, history books were written by white men with their perspectives at the forefront. It could even be said that the devaluation and erasure of the black experience is as American as apple pie. In Black AF History, Michael Harriot presents a more accurate version of American history, combining unapologetically provocative storytelling with meticulous research based on primary sources, as well as the work of pioneering Black historians, scholars, and journalists. Harriot removes the white sugarcoating from the American story, placing Black people squarely at the center. With incisive wit, Harriet speaks hilarious truth to oppressive power, subverting conventional historic narratives with little known stories about the experiences of Black Americans. From the African Americans who arrived before 1619 to the unenslavable bandit who inspired America's first police force, this long overdue corrective provides a revealing look into our past that is as urgent as it is necessary. For too long, we have refused to acknowledge that American history is white history, not this one. This history is Black AF. So, obviously, if y'all know me, this book has intrigued me. And I remember my mom picked it up. If you guys pay attention to the cover, you can kind of see the comedic effort that went into this book. So if you're interested in it, like I said, there's a description box below. I'm actually going to be reading this. Part of the reason why I take December off is because that is a rest month for me. So I actually plan to do some reading. I have like 4 books lined up that I actually want to read, including this one, the Melanin Spotlight from, was it last week or the week before? I want to read The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store by James McBride. And I also have 3 more books in a series that I've been obsessed with that I absolutely plan to like just get in and devour, because those books only take me like 2 days because that's all I do. So December is going to be full of reading for me, since I'm not going to be online. But that being said, while we were talking about the Melanin Spotlight, I also want to remind you guys to please go ahead and get into Magic in the Melanin, a Black fantasy anthology. All of the authors have been announced, so if you are not following us on Instagram, Threads, or anything like that, get into it. The authors are announced. The artists are going to be announced later this week, so get into that as well. And the pre-orders are going strong. So as a reminder that if you pre-order a physical copy of Magic in the Melanin, you will also get the digital copy when the book releases. So support Black authors, support the Melanin Library, support what we're doing, especially in this climate that we are in. It would be really nice to see that we can actually, as a community, come together and support Black authors and the stories that they're writing, and not just like talk about supporting it, but actually be about supporting it. So that being said, links to both of those books down in the description box, so get into them. But we have things to talk about. Because I have opinions, you guys. And if you're in the After Chat Discord, we've already kind of had a discussion about this, but I think it's something that bears talking about in a larger setting and actually having a conversation about it, you know? And that is this idea that's been circling around in the bookish community for the last, I'll say, week or so, maybe 2, I guess, this month, essentially, that there is no space for Black boys in YA, right? Which is young adult, right? The tweet that I saw that kind of brought it to my attention was by, it's not Bethany Morrow. What is her last name? The Poisons We Drink. Bethany Baptiste. There we go. The link to her thread post is down in the description box, down all the way down at the bottom where it says relevant links. And basically, she quote tweeted someone who was saying that black boys don't read books, and not just Black boys, but boys in general don't read books where women are the main characters and the authors, right? And basically that it's impossible, and that the reason that they don't is because they hate women. That was the statement. Like boys just hate women, and that's why they don't read their books, and that's why they don't read YA, because we're just going to proceed in this conversation accepting that Most of publishing is dictated by white women and caters to white women, especially in the young adult space, right? We're just going to accept that as fact. Um, and so Bethany responded and she was like, that's a really irresponsible take, essentially, because they are not represented in they're in young adult stories. And that's why they go to other mediums like anime and video games, manga, comics, whatever. And it's kind of started this conversation of where do boys, specifically black boys, because this is written in Melon, this is Melanin Library, specifically black boys, where do they fit in this conversation? And I've seen multiple takes, right? So there is um there's Bethany's take, right? Saying like that's an irresponsible thing. They need representation in the space like everyone else. But then there's also the take of the original poster who's also like, well, they don't read books by women and that's why they don't have representation because they hate women. And there was also an interesting take, and I linked it down below, from Michael LeBourne from on his bindery page, where he was like, it's mostly about black boys and black men are not willing to stand with black women in their plight to be seen because, black women are also underrepresented in young adult publishing. And because they're not willing to read those books, they're not getting their own books. And I'm going to talk about it because I have my own opinions, but I want to make something extremely clear up front before I get into my opinions that I support Michael and what he's doing. If you can support his bindery, just because I don't necessarily agree with all of his opinions does not mean that I do not believe in what he's doing for the black and brown reading communities. So like for sure, if you are able to support his bindery, it's similar to Patreon, but you'll be helping him actually publish books by black and brown authors. And what he's doing is actually really necessary in the community. So I want to preface everything that I'm about to talk about by saying that, right? But uh, looking at some of the comments already, Benjamin was like, if boys hated women, nobody would be here. Facts. Facts. I mean, true, but not true. There's nuance, but yeah. And then Darren was like, this gets me pissed off all over again. Yeah, I think here's my take on it, right? I think I'm more in line with what Bethany was saying, and that I feel like it's a really irresponsible to take to say that black boys specifically hate women because they don't want to read books that are published or not published, that are published by women about women, right? Because I feel like there are so many other aspects that go into them not wanting to read those books that I feel like people are overlooking, especially when it comes to traditional publishing, especially when it comes to being a black person talking about black authors. And y'all know that on this platform, I am 100% about black people, black authors getting their bag. Whether I love your book or not, I'm like, do your thing. Everybody deserves to be able to chase their dreams and have what they do support them, right? I believe that. I support that 10 toes down all day, every day. So that's where I stand on that, right? However, I feel like there are so many things that specifically as black people, as a community, in the black bookish community, we don't talk about for fear of being seen as tearing other people down. And I just feel like it's interesting. It's interesting because how do I put this? I feel like there's more levels to all of this, right? First of all, I think it's irresponsible to say that black boys hate women because I don't think that's true. Mostly because if you pay attention to the things that they like and enjoy, it's like a lot of it is female led and female authored and female created. I think that sexism, just like racism, is something that is taught, right? And I think being like, oh, they don't want to read this book because it's about a woman, I think you have to dig deeper than that. I think this is where the critical thinking has to come in because it's more than just because it's written by a woman. It's more so where do they fit in? Because I think the same could be true of when women are like, okay, I'm tired of reading books where boys are the center of every narrative. Like, where are the girls? Where are the smart girls, the athletic girls? Where's our representation in these spaces? And we're still pushing for it. So I think it becomes interesting when the the perspective cannot be understood of, okay, if I cannot see myself in this space, in this medium, in this art form, why would I constantly want to come here? Why would I want to be here? Why would I want to invest time, money, and energy here? Especially for kids, right? Because they have limited amount of time, they have limited amount of funds. And if the difference is, okay, I'm going to spend my allowance or spend my paycheck from my job on a video game or a book, all right, and I'm going to spend the same amount of hours in both, why would I choose something that does not include me at all, right? Because let's talk about it. First of all, a couple of comments. Vina pointed out, Miss Woman of Color Reader said, it would have been a great opportunity for him to speak on what he's doing to carve out a space for Black boys and men in publishing. That part. Also, Tanja is here. Hello, welcome, love. Glad you could make it. Ben said a lot of things go into Black boys not reading in general. I don't think it really has anything to do with hating women. I agree. T.A. Summers is here. Hello, welcome. And Ben said, when you start with the disclaimers, it makes me nervous. I feel like I have to start with disclaimers. I feel like I have to. But all that being said, there's no nice way to say this. I think this narrative of, oh, they should just read the books that are for Black girls, right? Because that was one of the points that I saw. I think the fallacy in that is, one, assuming that the books for Black girls are good, right? Whether I like them or not, it's not the problem. It's, do the audience that they are targeting like them enough to push them into the realm of Black boys, right? Are they telling their friends about it? Like, oh, like, yes, it's about this Black girl, but I think you would like it too. Is it good enough for them to go tell their male friends about it, right? And when they do, is it enough for that male friend to then enjoy it, right? I think collectively, there has been a degradation of the art of writing over time. I think there has been a focus on writing books that can be easily picked up into movies. I think there has been a dumbing down so that readers can understand the story a bit more. I think that part of this conversation has to include the fact of, are these books really good enough to reach people who are not the target demographic? And I'm not saying that all of them aren't, but I'm definitely saying that not every one of them is, right? So I think that has to be part of the conversation. And then I think we also have to address the conversation of, okay, a lot of these traditionally published books, because I'm not even talking about indie books right now, mostly because that is a completely different niche and that requires work. And if you're actively reading indie authors, you are likely to be in a space where you're doing the research, or you know someone who is doing the research, right? So for the purposes of this conversation, I'm only talking about traditionally published books, right? And it's just kind of like, not only does that book have to be good, we are talking about these books as if the love interest, the brothers, the sisters, the brothers, the male figures, the friends are Black men, and they are not. For a lot of these traditionally published books that feature Black girls, they are the token still. Even if they are Black, the people surrounding them are not, right? Especially Black men. And when they are, oftentimes they are not portrayed in a good light. They are not supportive. They're not loving. They're not the love interest. And it's just like, okay, so if Black boys are not included in the book, neither as the main character nor the side characters, why should they read this book? What is in it for them, right? And I feel like that part of the conversation also gets lost a lot, because they're like, I think it was a really quick jump to, oh, they just hate women. And it's just kind of like, I don't think that's the case, because when I think about the books that I read even growing up, sure, there were no Black people in it, but at least there were girls in it, and it's just kind of like, I don't think people understand how much it takes out of you to read story after story after story where you are not included. And then when you are included, you are shoehorned into this very specific role in the book that literally nobody cares about. And even then, that character dies, or terrible, terrible things happen to this character. And that is the only character you can see yourself in. It gets exhausting. And I think that has gotten lost in this conversation because the reason why a lot of authors start writing is because they wanted to see themselves as the main character, right? But in the midst of becoming the main character, they have forgotten the people around them who also need that representation, you know? And I find that interesting, but then I also am coming on this channel, right? Of so many books are vibes. So many books are tropey. So many books are I've got an idea, a concept, but I don't have a plot. And I think that is why other people outside the target demographic can't get into the books, because it's just like boys like drama, they like fun, they like action, they like these all of these things. And it's just like if you are not providing those things, they're not going to get into the book. And it's just like the plot has literally been lost. And yeah, girls may get into it and be like, oh, I love the romance, or I love this character, or, you know, create ships and things like that. And I'm not saying that all boys don't do that, but I'm saying that if we're appealing to the general target audience of what America understands the teenage boy to like, you're not really pushing those things. You're not really marketing those things. You're not really including those things. And so I think to push this narrative that, oh, they hate women because they're not getting into the things that they like, because they're not there for the romance. It's like, it's not just the romance aspect of it, but what other part of the book is there if it's not the romance? Because let's be real here. A lot of these books that are action based, fantasy based, they got holes in them. The craft isn't as developed as it needs to be. And even if the first book is great, I think we also need to talk about how the books are inconsistent. Like even if the first book is good, the entire series is not. And so I think when you have that in the conversation, because I'm reading it because I enjoyed the first book and I just need to see it through, like I'm stuck in it, or I started the first book and I want to continue it because I want to see these two characters get together. That's not really a compelling narrative for a lot of people outside of women. And I think no one really wants to talk about that. And I don't know, I feel like this whole idea, this whole conversation is skirting around the point that these books are not as good as they need to be to appeal to boys. And it's not just about having black men write black boys. I think there needs to be more of that. I genuinely do, especially in the young adult space, because they have been pushed out. Like aside from, I'll say, like Terry J. Benton Walker, Ladarian Williams, I honestly don't know too many black fantasy authors in the young adult space. I just, I don't. And it's just kind of like, as someone who tries to actively promote black authors and tries to actively find things and is actively looking in the community, it's like, why is that? Where are these names? Where are these people? Where's the promotion behind them? Where's the support, right? So that when these things do come about, they are known. And then Lamar Giles as well. Yeah. And then there's also Jason A. Reynolds, and there are a couple more if I really think about it. But it's just the fact that off top of the dome, where is the promotion for these authors? Where is the support for them? And it's also like, are they actually reaching black boys? Or is it just, okay, we're just going to throw it into the YA market and see if it takes off? I feel like there's so much more to this conversation that needs to happen, you know? But looking at some of his comments before they get too far away from me, Vita said black boys often aren't present in these books. When was the last time you read a black YA where the main character even had a brother who was prominently featured? That part. And, you know, I have my opinions about Children of Blood and Bone, but I will say that the siblings had just as important a role in the story as the main female characters did. So I will give it that. And I'm talking specifically about the first book and not the other ones in the series. And then Darian said some of these YA books don't even include black boy characters, but uplift the white POC character boys in favor. Yeah. This is the last Melanin Chat of the year, so I'm gonna be honest. That's why I have kind of given up on reading like trad fantasy, specifically YA, Mostly because there's this very specific trope that I just don't like, don't enjoy, am not interested in, will not read. And it is the trope of the black girl being in white spaces and falling in love with the white love interest with literally no one else around her. I'm just never going to subscribe to that, and no, thank you. I'm not interested in it. But to be fair, I don't read interracial romance of any kind if it's with a white love interest. So at least I'm consistent. Um, let's see here. Tanya said, "Are we asking why more men aren't writing in YA and middle grade? Because I feel like it's all an unfortunate symptom of the patriarchy. Black boys and boys in general are not taught that reading is for them." I think that is part of the conversation for sure, but I think it's also the conversation of not devaluing the things that they do enjoy to read, because I have heard plenty of time that, like, oh, you shouldn't read manga, you shouldn't read comics, you like that's not actual reading. And I feel like it's this elitist social hierarchy in the bookish community where it's just like, oh, if you're reading a novel, that inherently holds more value than if you are reading a comic, or if you're reading a light novel, or if you're reading something outside of the expected norm. And I feel like that's weird because reading is reading. Like, you still have to read words on a page. You still have to hallucinate. Just because there are pictures doesn't make it any less valuable. And I feel like because there's this idea that if you are not sitting down and reading a 800 page manifesto, that honestly, let's be real here, that 800 pages could have been a freaking email if someone had decided to like write it correctly, right? But just because you're not doing that, it's like, oh, okay, you're not really reading, you know? um it's just there's so many issues here, there's so many obstacles that I feel like with this whole conversation we could have talked about and tried to address so many issues within the bookish community to take down some of these barriers. But no, it just jumped to you are the problem. And I think one of the issues that I really had with jumping straight to um black boys hate, or boys hate women, right? That's why they don't read the books, or even implying that um black boys should read the books anyway and find representation in other characters, because if they don't, they're not standing on principle, they're not standing with black women. I think my issue with that becomes it blames the boys for not wanting to be in a space that doesn't include them. And I feel like that's a very dangerous rhetoric, because I feel like it could so easily be like, oh, well, to me, it sounds like when white people say, oh, we don't write books or publish books with black characters because black people don't read, because there's not enough of an audience for them to cater to them in a way that's meaningful. I feel like that's the same rhetoric. And I'm like, why are we using that against our own people to justify not including them? That's weird to me. Like, I don't I don't understand how black boys need representation and why A could be anything other than yes they do. That's it. That is the correct answer. I think anything other than that, of yes they do, yes they are underrepresented, yes we need to address this problem, no, people are not actively encouraging them and showing them things where they would enjoy this. Because here's the other thing that I feel like people cling to, is that reading doesn't need to be enjoyable. And it's like, if you're doing this in your own free time, it needs to be something that you enjoy, something that you have fun with, something that you want to do. How, like, I know some of us are completionists, but it's just like, that's the reason why people DNF books, because it's not fun to read anymore. Like, who wants to spend their free time doing something that they hate, especially when they have other options? So, like, yeah, if you want them to read, you have to include them. I don't understand how this has become a debate. I don't understand how this has become rocket science. I don't understand how this has become a think piece, because I just, I don't know. And it's just the fact that I feel like the argument in and of itself has holes in it, because people are like, oh, well, they don't read YA because they don't like to read and they hate women. But it's like, have you seen the manga and things that kids read? Especially boys read. Like, they read shoujo manga as well. They read shonen. Like, and I think the other thing is that we have to address in this conversation. YA is an age range. It's a target audience. It's not a genre. Like, it's not a genre. It's not a genre. It's it literally means you're targeting teenagers. That's literally what it means. It's not fantasy. Fantasy is a genre. Romance is a genre. Thriller is a genre. Horror is a genre. Psychological thriller is a genre. Action and adventure, sword and fantasy, magical realism. Those are genres. YA is an age range. And I feel like also applying that and being like, black boys don't read YA, it's like, I don't know. I feel like that we got to understand these words that we're throwing around in these conversations. Let's see here. Jason Reynolds writes contemporary, not fantasy, and one could say his books have high appeal to women readers. Okay, I'm glad that you brought that up, Vina. I'm glad that you brought that up because I feel like a good book should do both. I feel like it should appeal to both men and women, and I don't feel like every young adult book needs to be a fantasy book. I don't think so. I think contemporary is also good. Because what is the book that I read? What is this book? This one, Early Departures. Like, I absolutely loved this book, and it has a black boy as the main character, and I'm pretty sure everybody in the book is black, pretty much, if I remember correctly. But the thing is, it's like, it's contemporary, but it's, I don't know, sci-fi a little bit, magical realism. It's just like it plays with the concept of time, and it touches on themes that I think are really important. But it's also a book that I would recommend to like a teenage boy. Like, I feel like it's appropriate, the way that it's written, the story that it tells, the content, and I feel like that is what's being missed. It's not necessarily the writing style of the book. I think it's the content that's being missed. Like, where are the people who look like them? Where's the fun? Where's the adventure? Where's the unexpected? Where are the stakes? Where I feel like we're getting into where is the good part of the book, right? So you're losing out, like T.A. Summers says here, you're losing both reluctant readers and promoting books that many in the age range aren't ready for. So yeah, that's what it boils down to. That's what it boils down to. People don't want to give space for black boys, and I just think that's, ugh, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. Let's see here. White women being the gatekeepers of YA and needing to see themselves as the main character in the story is a big part of the issue. It is, and okay, this is the last chat, and I'm just gonna be honest with y'all. This whole conversation about black boys and YA and everything else, it just kind of like, it's like a deep sigh for me, honestly, because I'm just like, what do y'all expect? What do y'all want from these people? I feel like we are continuously shouting at people to care. I feel like we're continuously shouting at people who are like, be mad about it then, and they're going about their day. Like, the white women who are still getting their content, they're not concerned about these boys at all, right? And those are the people who run publishing. So it's just like, this is why I was like, I'm kind of upset that the conversation wasn't about providing solutions to the problem, because again, this is not a personal attack, but one of the things that I would have loved to see, especially since Michael now has a bindery imprint called Left Unread Books, I feel like as a black man in this space with an imprint who is actively working to make change in this industry, I would have liked to see a solution put forth of, okay, let's at least include black boys and black men in these books. I'm not saying that you have to exclusively publish black men. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that if you're going to have a book written by a black woman, I don't see what the issue is of saying like, hi, is there a black boy represented in this book somewhere? Because traditional publishing has done that for years to black people. It's just like, okay, that's why we have so many black books with light love interests. It's like, okay, well, we have to appeal to the target audience. And if you're going to tell me that I am the target audience, or you're trying to appeal to a specific audience, then what is the issue in holding the authors who are writing these books to some standard? I don't know. I feel like in so many ways that we need our own spaces and our own ways of publishing, because if we are going to be serious about including Black boys, if we are going to be serious about including narratives around Black women that are more than the stereotyped ones that traditional publishing allows, if we're going to be serious about writing stories that center more than just our pain and our trauma that get picked up, or having to be the token, or having to fit into a certain stereotype in order to be understood, it's like, why don't we have our own spaces? And I know that inherently that comes with with other issues, because when you create your own spaces, they don't like that either. There's really no winning this battle. But I'm also like, you lose the fight if you don't even enter into the ring, right? And it's just kind of like, I don't know, we got to do something. We got to do something, because asking them to care about us has never been the correct way to go about it. It's never been the solution, because even when we get in through the door, it's like we're still not getting to tell our stories the way that we want to. We're still catering to an audience that does not include us, to the point where I'll say I'm not to the point where the advice is becoming to not include your audience at all in order to sell a book. And I feel like when we get to that point, when it's just like, don't when the advice to Black authors is becoming, don't include yourself in your books, don't market to people who look like you. When the advice becomes that in order to sell books, in order to have a career, you've lost the plot. You've completely lost the plot. You've lost the reason for being here. You've lost the reason for doing this. You've lost the reason for continuing to move forward. It's okay if you stop here. And I don't know. I just feel like it gets exhausting, especially in this era that we are currently in, post November 5th, November 6th, whatever. Um, I don't know. I feel like we're in an era of like, okay, what are we going to fight for? What are you going to stand on? What principles are you going to stand on? What are you really going to be doing for this community? Because we're all talking, this current era is all about community, right? Finding your community, supporting your community, giving to your community, keeping our dollars in our community. There's so many conversations going on, but it's like, how are you really going to stand on that? All right, like I'm curious to see how many people are really going to stand on business at the end of the day. How many people are really going to be like, okay, I'm supporting this community. I'm being loud about this community. I'm putting my money behind this community. I'm going to do what I can for this community. Or are they just saying that until it becomes inconvenient? Because I feel like our Achilles heel is that Black people also treat other Black people like a fad, like a trend, like a passing moment. And I feel like that's the problem. But I feel like I'm getting on a soapbox, so I'm gonna try to get off of that. But yeah, looking at some of the comments. Read Listen is here. Hello, love. I don't think I welcomed you. Hi. I hope you're doing well. Read Listen said Black boys barely have representation. Just because folk hype up the few sprinkles of Black books doesn't mean there's representation. There's barely representation for Black girls, so you know there's not many for Black boys. And it's just like, it's that part. Because I feel like people are like, well, there are Black girls. And I'm like, which books are you talking about, right? Because yeah, they exist, but aside from the ones that got really popular in 2020, which I'll say are household names for a specific community, right? Besides those authors and those books, what books do we have? Like, are they still coming out? Are they in the room with us? Do we know about them? Do we read them? And are they good? Like, and when I say that, I'm not talking about I'm talking like a blanket statement, right? Like, do the books have a solid plot? Is it intriguing? Is it something that you are actually locked into? Or is it something that's writing a representation to carry the book? Representation and vibes. Is that what's carrying the book? Because I'm really tired of seeing books that are just nothing but representation and vibes. If that's all you have to offer me, then continue on. Don't stop here. Thank you. And I feel like if those are the books that we are pushing, then I don't know. Maybe we need to start pushing more indie books. Maybe we need to start questioning the system that's putting forth books that are just representation and vibes. Like, why is that? Why is it that so many books, when they get into the hands of Black readers, they're not what we thought they were going to be. And I mean this in the sense of, I'm sure you guys have seen the trend, especially if you are in bookish spaces online, where a book gets announced, right? And they're like, "Oh, I've been querying. I've got an agent. This is my vague publishing tweet." And then, you know, they put out their announcement, and it's just like, "Yay, we're getting a book." And the idea of it sounds good because Publishers Weekly, you really don't need more than a vibe, right? But then we start getting the marketing for it. And then it's just like, okay, what else you got? And we're like, okay, well, we'll give it a chance. And then it's hyped up. The book cover is everywhere, The author starts doing little things like podcasts, and their book gets mentioned. They're like, "I'm on this book list." And we're all like, "Yay, we're finally getting representation." And then the book comes out. And it's just like, "Oh my God, it's release day. Woo!" And everybody's sharing the cover. It's like, "I can't wait to get into this book. This book is going to be amazing. I'm so excited." And then we never hear about that book ever again. And then when you check Goodreads, we see why we never heard about that book ever again. And then we progress into the stage of authors crying on the internet because no one is hype about their second book, not like they were about the first one. And we create this cycle of hyping up debut authors and making sophomore authors feel like their time, it's not worth it. And I feel like there's this idea of, okay, but did you do what you were supposed to do as a debut so that people would be excited for your next one? And I feel like it's always pointing fingers at the audience. Y'all didn't do this. Y'all didn't hype me up. Y'all forgot about the book. But it's just like, did you write a book worth remembering? Did you write a book worth talking about? Did you write a book that was going to be successful regardless of how it came out? Because I feel like when people look at indie authors and they're like, "Oh, well, you weren't successful," it's like, well, you didn't do what you needed to do. But it's like, if indie authors had the level of marketing push that trad authors have, how many more of those books would be successful? How many more of those books would actually stick with you and be memorable? Especially the ones that do get the traction, especially the ones where people are like, "Oh, why didn't I know about this sooner?" It's like, why didn't you know about it sooner? Who's the one deciding these metrics of what's successful and what's not? you know I don't know. Y'all know I doubt the system. I've always been a loud doubter of the system, and that's probably not going to change anytime soon. But when it comes to people reading, when it comes to Black authors being supported, when it comes to Black authors writing their own stories, when it comes to Black readers supporting Black authors, I'm just kind of like, I don't know, there's more work to be done here. There's just more work to be done. And I feel like the collective question has to be asked of, okay, so what do you want to do from here? We're in 2024. The publishing industry has been around as long as this country has. And just like the rest of this country, nothing about it has changed since the founding of this country. So are we going to continue to complain about it? Are we going to continue to try to force our way into a system that does not want us? Or are we going to accept that there has to be a different and better way and try that way? Because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So when are we going to start doing something different collectively as a community? That becomes my question, But like I said, I know who I am. I know where I stand on this. But yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. Also, Cherry Reese is here. Hello, welcome, love. Glad you could make it. Let's see here. We don't want, what is it? We don't want just vibes. Yeah. Identity reductionism is exactly representation and vibes. It's not true representation nor storytelling. Also, I'm getting tired of the Black version of books as if it's fan fiction. They also pick the worst stories to copy and never write a better rendition. One of the things that I hate more than anything in this world is being called the Black version of something. Like, no, you can be your own thing and be completely fine with that. But it is also the idea that you need to be the next of anyone. Like, you don't. I'm so sorry. You are not the next Toni Morrison. You are not the next Octavia Butler. You are not the next whoever, insert name here. They have already existed. They did their job. Leave it there. If you want to be recognized, be recognized on your own standing, by your own name, and not because you were chasing somebody else's shadow, because you were never going to fill shoes that you were never meant to walk in. Like, just leave it where they're at, right? I feel like the obsession with that is weird. It's strange. It's odd. And I think it's very detrimental to the community as a whole, honestly, because it's just like those books already existed, those stories already existed. So what are you offering the community if it's not anything new? I don't know. I don't know. Let's see here. Read, Listen said they just expect us to like the book due to how long it took to get out the trenches, or because they're black. Stop blaming readers for not liking their representation. DMs be where the truth is. I feel like expecting people to like your book because of how long it took you to write it is just disrespectful. Like, you're the only person in the world who took forever to write a book. You're not. You're not special. Like, it takes time. That's why it's art. It sucks, but like, it is what it is. It is what it is. I don't know. I don't know. The pity reads are not it. It's giving very much like 2008 Wattpad, where it's just like read for read. Like, I'll read your story if you read mine. That the Chat's publishing scene is very much starting to feel like that, and it's just, I don't know. I don't know. My hill that I would die on is just like write a better book. And because with indie authors especially, it's always like, okay, if you write a good book, then you'll reach your audience, and then from there your audience will reach their audience, and from there their audience will continue on. That's why word of mouth is so important. I feel like the difference with trad publishing is their immediate circle is just so much bigger than indie authors, right? Because they have the publishing dollars behind them. They have the ability to reach more people directly, and so it seems like their book is doing more than what it is, right? But at the end of the day, in order to reach the levels of success that people really are aiming for, it doesn't matter how big your starting circle is, you still have to get outside of it. And I feel like we get into the pity parties when it doesn't get outside of that circle. It doesn't get word of mouth. It doesn't get to, okay, this person told someone else. Because, and I think that's a hard metric for trad authors, because it's just like, you start out with your circle so big, you start out with people that you don't know talking about your book, right? But that's not because someone read your book and loved it and told them about it. It's because someone that you don't know is marketing your book because they're being paid to market your book, right? And so you don't really get that growth, that expanse, I'll say. So you can't really see how far your book is going. And because you think in the beginning, like, oh, this person that I don't know is talking about my book, therefore I must have reached outside of my immediate circle. And it's just like, no, you haven't done that yet. And if you don't, that's when the feelings get hurt. That's when we get, why didn't you guys love my book? That's when we get the, I took forever to write this book. Especially when the audience that you're marketing to doesn't look like you, and you're very clear that you are not trying to reach the people that look like you, because you expect the people who look like you to just get the book because they look like you. Follow me? I don't know. I feel like that was a rant. My bad. Let's see here. Ben said your first book is a huge determiner on who will buy your second book, which means you have to elevate your skill above just marketing and vibes if you want to be a career author. This is why I love this man. This is why I love Ben. Because yeah, that part. And I feel like, and it just could be me, but I feel like really genuinely there's a huge difference between like indie authors and trad authors, and the fact that indie authors are really like, the first book has to sell, the second book has to sell, the third book. But with trad authors, they're just like, each book sells itself. Like, I feel like trad authors have this idea of like, there's space for me to grow in my journey, right? And I believe that's true of all authors. There's always space to grow in the journey. But I feel like the mentality with trad publishing is the second book will sell the first one, and the third book will sell the first two. And it's interesting, honestly, because with indie authors, the backlog is way more important. right? But they're just like, first book has to sell, the second book has to sell, the third book has to sell, the fourth book, especially when you're writing a series. I feel like that could be a whole discussion of like this idea that I feel like trad authors just feel like they have more time. And that's probably because they're not paying for it themselves. Because they have a contract. They know that they're getting a second book. They know that they're getting another book. So that idea of elevating, that idea of quality, that idea of marketing hits completely different, because with an indie author, if you don't sell those books, you might not get a second, third, fourth book, not unless you can afford to do it out of your own pocket. So it's just like the writing has to be better. The marketing has to be top tier. It's got to do what it's supposed to do. Whereas if trad authors miss the mark, they have another chance. Interesting. Let's see here. Say you're inspired by elements, but to make the exact story, but make it black or modern isn't it. Plus, half of these authors never give homage to these before them, but claim I'm the first XYZ. That is a whole conversation. And we're going to talk about that in the after chat. I'm going to take a screenshot of this right now. And I'm about to drop it in the after chat because, yeah. Yeah, we need to talk about that. Also, a reminder that after chat, sign up for patreon.com/written melanin. This is the last Melanin Chat for the year. So if you want to stay part of the conversation, if you want to get early access to the Lady Widow, if you want to know what's going on behind the scenes with the Melanin Library and things of that nature, then get into it. You're supporting the channel, you're supporting the Melanin Library, you're supporting my writing, you're supporting everything that Written in Melanin does. So if you're about the community, if you're about supporting Black authors truly and genuinely, feel free to sign up for the Patreon, or you can subscribe to the channel. Click that little join button next to the subscribe button. That'll get you all the same perks. So get into it. So yeah. Let's see here. Ben said time does not equal quality. And Tia Summer says, I don't want to call it specific people, but I still keep thinking of that Black girl horror book that redeemed the racist white girl, and it gave the Black girl no agency. Ooh, I would like to know what book you're talking about. Are you in the after chat? I would like to know. Okay. Sorry, this is me being messy. Moving on. Moving on. I would rather read an indie book with a couple of typos or mistakes versus a trad hyped or beg us to read by book. Too many trad authors of all races feel entitled, but hey, TA members became a Melanin member. Thank you, love, for joining the channel. Welcome. Very cool. That's the first time that's happened on stream. So very cool. TA, you should be able, since you joined the channel, you should have access to the Discord, so you can join us for the after chat. So I'm excited for that. Hey, talk about it in the after chat. All right. Y'all already know what it is. So if you're watching this and you're not part of the after chat, now would be a good time to join. But yeah, can we also talk about the fact that a lot of trad books also have like mistakes and plot holes in them and typos? Like they're not perfect. Maybe I just see it because I have like an editor brain sometimes, but especially in YA, baby, those books they can use some work. They can use another pass. A lot of them could, not all of them, but several. But yeah. Too many think that getting viral or TikTok is the goal versus cultivating their readership and appreciating the reader buyer they already have. Like, build. Stop complaining about lists. Ooh, okay. We have 2 minutes and then we're going to the after chat. But that is a word, because so many people chase virality. They think that if they hit that moment, if they are everywhere, then all of a sudden that's it. They've become big. And it's just like, there's a reason why it's called 15 minutes of fame. Okay? Because you only got 15 minutes. And the thing is, if you go viral and you know how to maximize off of that virality, that's great. That's how you get authors like, Kimberly Lemming. That's how you get your, what is her name? I can't remember her name. Ooh, I can see her face clear as day. She wrote the name bearer, Natalia Hernandez. I don't know why I said Natasha. Natalia Hernandez. It's like you go viral and then you capitalize off of that virality. The issue is a lot of people, a lot of authors chase that virality, but then they don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to maximize it. They're not ready for that moment. And I am so big on being prepared for the opportunities that you're trying to create for yourself. Like, yes, go viral, but then what? Do you have a product? Do you know how to market it? Do you know how to sell it? Do you know how to leverage that audience so that they keep coming back, so that those numbers don't just fluctuate for a moment? Do you know how to turn this moment into a career? Because when you see your really big like pop stars and celebrities, that's what happened. They had a moment and they knew how to capitalize off of it. And the ones who had a moment but didn't are the ones who had to figure out how to get another moment. Like, that's just what it is. And some of them don't. And some of them don't. So yeah. But that being said, you guys, it is now 11 o'clock, which means that is it for this episode of the Melanin Chat. If you would like to join, support, like I said, join the Patreon. You can join the channel, support the Melanin Library and everything that we do here. We have a lot of cool things coming up in 2025. So hope you guys stick around for that. The next Melanin Chat will be in January, not that first Tuesday, because that first Tuesday is the 3rd, but January 10th, we will be back on the Melanin Chat talking about everything that's been happening in the bookish community for the next like 6 weeks. But that being said, thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. Thank you for hanging out with me, for being amazing people. I hope you have amazing, wonderful holidays if I don't show up on your screens anytime between now and then. And yeah, I hope you guys are wonderful. Hope your days are lovely and your books are interesting. And happy Thanksgiving, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all of that. So until next time, you guys. Bye.